Hey everyone, this is Jane with Barlow Herbal, and happy Sunday, August 27th of 2023. It is a beautiful day to be here, be aware, and be alive on Mother Earth. We are here during the most exciting time in human history, in my opinion. Now, I had a ton of good reflection this week. I wrote a lot in my journal, and if you still haven't picked up the journal habit, start it today. Go get a blank journal, a blank notebook. It's back to school. There are notebooks everywhere. So go grab yourself something and sit down to reflect, disconnect from your technology, and really tune in to the high vibe frequencies of the planet because things are shifting so fast. So I'm just going to go through this and see where this takes me from just the notes that I wrote down this week. So one of the biggest things that came through was this. We are so much bigger and more important than we know. Every single one of us. Everything is happening for a reason, and it's up to us to not only figure it out, but to see the silver lining in everything. And if you think about all the things that have happened to every human, every person, the things that we go through as we grow up and the things that we have to learn along the way. Some of that is through struggle. Some of that is through physical pain. It's interesting. My sister, one of my sisters, her and her husband just dropped off their youngest son to college this week and posted some pictures on social media. And there's a picture of him in his dorm room with my sister and her husband and their young 18-year-old. In fact, he'll be 18 next month. He's not even 18 yet. But you look at this face, this innocent, beautiful face, and you know, from where I sit in my perspective, and I think about all the things that I've been through since I was 18 years old, you know that there's going to be these things that happen just because this is this human life. And it all depends on how we look at it, how we take it, what we realize about ourselves and our purpose. And I think the younger we can learn these things and realize these things, the more powerful our life will be because we'll have these experiences that teach us these deep lessons. So one of the things that really came through for me this week, because I've been working so hard on this, is, and I've heard several different people talk about it. In fact, my nephew Ben has talked about this, at least the first part in one video, and actually one article that went viral called, I think it was 8 things every person should do before 8 a.m. And it was a blog that he wrote when he was in graduate school that went absolutely viral and kind of put him on the map when he first started writing more than 10 years ago. So this concept is something that I have worked on over the years, but I find myself getting caught in old habits. And the concept is this: the 30 to 45 minutes when you first wake up in the morning and the 30 to 45 minutes before you go to bed at night, those are magical. This is a magical time because what you let in the morning is going to determine your day. What with your social media, with entertainment things, you want to watch things for entertainment, with the news. It totally frames your outlook for the day. And if you think about even something you might feel is benign, like say you're a little bit addicted to a game, and this is why it's been on my radar this week, is because sometimes when I just want to decompress my mind, instead of just letting my mind just be and sit in stillness, I'll open up this little mindless game on my phone because I don't want to suck into social media. And I'll just open up this mindless game, and it's the same thing. It might be, you're not getting negativity, but you're just getting mindlessness. And I've really been focusing on disconnecting from that, even on those moments when I find myself being a little bit bored. And like being bored in this world is actually, I think it's something we should all strive for. We should strive for those quiet moments, quiet time, be a little bit bored. Not always after that little dopamine hit or that constant dopamine hit we get from everything that we do on our phones. So we have this precious time when we first wake up and this precious time right before we go to bed. And I actually heard someone call it that this week on a podcast I listened to. by a man who actually lives in my same state. I've never met this person, and he just got on my radar this week. His name is Vinnie Tolman, and he had a near-death experience 20 years ago. And I've since watched a few of his interviews, and this is one of the things that he talks about, is the importance of that first bit in the morning after you wake up and the first bit before you go to bed. And he actually calls it, we have this precious time when we first wake up, and this precious time again right before we go to bed. Whatever we put in that precious time, we will frame our experience with. So it will frame our experience of this life. And that is a crazy way to look at that, because if you're a person who flips on the news first thing in the morning, first of all, you're probably a person who's not watching this. If you watch the news in the morning, you're probably not connected with me, and you're probably not connected with maybe other people who think this way. If the first thing you're doing is you're either watching the news on your television or on your phone, your iPad, your laptop, whatever. I know people who the first thing that they get, they might get up and use the bathroom when they first get up. And I say this because I have relatives who visit me, and this is what they do. They'll go back and lay in bed, and they'll scroll through their social media, Facebook, Instagram, whatever, to catch up with what's going on. And it's just become this routine. This is what they do first thing in the morning. And you have to break yourself out of this routine. So whatever we put in that precious time, we will frame our experience and our existence with. Our very existence will be framed by that. If we want to frame it with chaos or entertainment or the news, then we will see the world through that lens, through that frame. If we want to frame our day with positive energy, like positive podcasts, the words of divine teachers or ascended masters, or the Bible, or things that raise our frequency and raise our vibration, then our view will be filled with positivity and a realization that everything is happening for a reason. This is what I love about a lot of these podcasts and a lot of these channels that I have found over these last few years. A few I've followed for a long time, but seems like there's a lot of activity of people who are bringing messages of divine wisdom and knowledge to the forefront, and they're growing these platforms because humanity is so hungry for it. So these are the things that I hope you're tuning into as well. So at a minimum, give yourself 30 minutes in the morning and 30 minutes before you go to bed, where you not only disconnect from the negativity, that at the very minimum you sit in stillness with maybe a journal, or you sit in stillness in nature. You maybe go outside, and one of the things me and my husband love to do is sit out in the back. We are blessed enough to have a pool in our backyard, and we've created this beautiful space where there's some outdoor furniture, and there's a covering over it, and we'll sit out, and where we sit, and it faces where the sun sets, and there's a house behind us, but it sits down, so we have a perfect view of the sunset, and we find ourselves sitting out there. Sometimes there's music. We have music over, we have a little Bluetooth that there's music on. But most of the time, we just sit in either conversation with each other or just stillness and just quiet. And this is literally right before we go to bed. Sometimes we'll even get in and go for a swim when it's, 10 o'clock at night, which feels like such a luxury, and it is. It's such a blessing. I feel so blessed. So here is a quote that Vinnie Tolman, actually said on one of the podcasts I listened to. And this is from him. Inside every dark experience is the potential for light, learning, and growth. You can take every bad thing that ever happens to you and use it to make that light within you stronger. Okay, and I guess that's actually from a book he wrote, and many of you might be familiar with this. I'm a little surprised that I'm just now discovering this person. But it's called The Light After Death. And his story is actually absolutely fascinating. And I have found myself these last 2 or 3 years especially really drawn to near-death experiences, because they fill me with hope, and they fill me with a realization of a lot of these things feel just truth. And we always know that what we feel in our gut, what we feel in our heart, those are the things that resonate, that because they're true. And I've just really been drawn to that. So if we really look at the moments in our life, the darkest times, we will realize that we did grow. It's when we grew the most. And you hear this all the time. Someone gets diagnosed with something terrible. Someone has a car accident. Someone, even something as horrible. Any of these things are horrible, but your house burns down or whatever happens. And these are the moments that we get to, first of all, reframe, especially if they're ones that we survive through. But many people come out of these things stronger, better. They have a realization of why they're here, their purpose. They're not just walking through their life mindless. And I think the goal for the majority of us who don't have, we don't lose a limb in a car accident. We don't have something really absolutely horrific happen, that it turns into a wake-up call and it makes us realize our purpose. But the goal is for those of us who just have maybe the normal things that are hard, realize these things without that big, huge, hard thing, right? I think, every time I hear someone's experience and I watch them come out of it and they have all these amazing insights and their life changes for the better, and they're so grateful for this hard thing that happened. And I've had my share of hard things. I shared that 25 years ago I built a fitness center with one of my sisters. We both put everything we had into it, financially, emotionally, physically, everything, and it failed, and it was a horrific experience. And I thought my life was over. I was in my mid-30s, and it was like, how am I going to ever recover from this financially was probably the biggest thing that I thought. But over time, and I actually figured this out pretty quickly, which I'm grateful for. That was one of the biggest gifts that I ever got, because it gave me so much knowledge and appreciation and lessons, and that's really what it's all about. So we must also be aware that in our greatest moments of success, there is potential for misstep or to take the wrong step, but there's always a lesson. So there's still a lesson even when we are having our biggest successes. And I think the thing to do is to stay in a place of presence, of oneness, of knowing source, God, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't matter what you call it. That's what, we all, if we're tuned in, we know that that we are a piece of source. And so through both the successes and the failures, we are building. We're building our character. We're building our life. And it really is what you let in. Sometimes we learn more from our failures than our successes, of course. I think that is always a given for human beings. Okay, now here's another quote from Vinny from his book. Whatever you give your attention to, whatever you focus on, good or bad, you attract and then create that into existence. So be careful with your thoughts. So be careful what thoughts you hold in your mind. Okay, so that is a quote right from his book. I'm going to read that again. Whatever you give your attention to, whatever you focus on, good or bad, you attract and then create that into existence. So be careful what thoughts you hold in your mind. We talked about this probably a month ago when I read that little book that was written over 100 years ago called How to Get Anything You Want. It really talks about being very careful with what you think, because it brings it into fruition. What we think about always expands. What you think of, you create. Here's the mistake that most people make. And this is really, I've heard this from multiple sources. We think positive 80% of the time, and then we think negative 20% of the time. So we think, well, then everything's good and everything's going to work out for me exactly the way I want it to, because 80% of the time I'm thinking positive. And what they or you or me might not realize is that smaller percentage that we're thinking negative still has its own traction. It still has its own frequency and vibration. And if we can look at the things that are negative, or something negative happens to us, and then as quickly as we can diffuse it, not let our brain focus on it and fixate on it and let it ruin our day, ruin our week, ruin whatever, Some things people let ruin their whole entire life, and they hold up the victim flag until the day they die. And that is not something I ever, ever, ever want to do. So the 20% negative, especially if we're extremely passionate about it, can be, so here's what I wrote. The 20% negative, if we are extremely passionate, angry, fearful about these negative things, what is happening and what matters is the emotion, the passion, the feeling around those thoughts. And I'm not saying that you aren't ever allowed to have a negative, fearful, angry thought, but the goal is to diffuse those as quickly as you can and vibrate in the positivity as much as you can. In fact, on Friday, I had a really interesting experience. I was getting ready for a dinner that we had Friday night, and I was in, I had a couple places I had to run to, and I went into Costco, and I got a couple things. And as I was coming out of the store with my cart, there was a Costco worker. He was probably my age, actually. He was a bigger guy, and he was gathering the carts from the parking lot. And he had this shirt on and because he was bigger, it was of course a bigger shirt, but it was covered in M&Ms, colored M&Ms, and it was just like, wow. And as I passed my cart past him as he was getting a group of carts back into the store, I was like, wow, that shirt is amazing. And it really was. And he lit up. He just lit up. You would have think that I told him something different than that. But it was just like, he's like, do you think so? I saw this. And he actually made a joke about, I thought I was getting an Eminem, the singer, the rapper, a shirt by Eminem, the rapper, but they sent me this Eminem. He's like, just kidding. This is what I meant to order. And it was just this really magical moment where, it was just me noticing this person's shirt that he obviously thought was fabulous. And it made him feel good. It made him feel happy, made him feel positive. And I noticed it. And I gave him a comment. And I didn't just either smirk to myself that he looked ridiculous, which I didn't think he did. I think he looked amazing. Or just maybe thought that to myself, like, that is awesome. I actually verbalized it and pushed out just something positive and happy to my fellow human. Then what I did is I put my stuff in my car and I went to take my cart to the bin. And there was an older lady who was unloading things into her back of her car. She was by herself. And she had a couple of heavy things in the bottom, and one was a great big Mondo, the biggest case you could buy, of cans of Mountain Dew. And she couldn't lift it out of her cart. And I was like thinking, how did you get that in your cart in the first place? That was my initial thought. And then I'm like, and of course my thought is like, oh my goodness, you shouldn't be drinking this. I kind of went into a bit of judgment. And I wiped that away quickly, and I just said, oh my goodness, can I help you lift that into your car? And she's like, yeah, that would be awesome. You're in much better shape than me. And I said, oh no, it's totally fine. And so I lifted it into her cart, and she smiled and thanked me, and I took her cart back to the bin. But the reason I tell you this is because I don't think we do enough of this pushing out positivity on these little things that happen day in and day out. And I got into my car and I drove away feeling so good, just feeling good that I'd interacted in such a high energy way with my fellow human beings. I didn't know either one of them. It was just a lovely moment. So what matters is the emotion, the passion, and the feeling around any thoughts that you have. Even thinking fearfully, passionately, 5% of the time, that attracts that to us. If we are feeling passionately fearful, and I tell you guys on a regular basis, I say this because I have personal experience with this. I have passionately felt fearful of many of the events that have happened the last 3.5 years especially. And I do have my moments that I'm getting really good at dissipating where I feel fearful for the future. That is dissipating so quickly as I watch events of the world change so fast. I think that this is such an important time for those of us who see to stay in a constant high vibrational energetic field. We can create that ourselves. So even thinking fearfully, passionately 5% of the time, it attracts that to us. Be very, very selective on what you allow yourself to think and focus on, right? That to me is so good. Okay, and there's a famous saying out there, and many people have put their own spin on it, but it goes something like this. Watch your thoughts, they become your habits. Watch your habits, they become your actions. Watch your actions, they become your character. And your character becomes your destiny. That is what directs you in where you're going to go with throughout your life. So it starts with your thoughts. Your thoughts create your habits. What you think about creates the habits that you have. Your habits create your actions. And here's the thing, you can change your thoughts, you can change your habits, and you can change your actions. And your actions become your character. Your character becomes your destiny. As you're this human, in this beautiful soul, part of God, consciousness, part of Source in this human body right now. But it all starts with your thoughts. Use your magic wands wisely. This is something that I heard this week on one of the things I was listening to. Your thoughts are like your magic wands. Use them wisely. Use those magic wands / thoughts, words. Use them wisely. They are magical. So magical. Major hardships build us to be better individually and as a society. Because what's happening in the world right now is not happening to each of us individually. It is happening to us as a collective, as a society, in our communities. And I love the saying of things are not happening to you or to us, they are happening for us. I see massive miracles in the future, in the near future. Do we still have tough stuff to get through? Yes. A great big hell yes, we do. But we've got this, okay? I believe there are going to be great miracles happening in the very near future. All logic will have to go out the window for you to even believe that the miracles you are watching with your own eyes. This one I did hear from Vinny Tolman. He was on my radar big this week, some of the things I watched. And I think that there are going to be things happening that we're going to have to, in fact, let me read what I wrote. This was based on something that he said in one of his interviews. Our ego, which is the outside part of us, won't believe those miracles are real, okay? But our hearts and everything inside of us will say that it's real. So I think that right now, if you're a person that's watching this resonates with you, think about the things that could be happening in the very, very near future that might seem miraculous. No matter if you let them put you in a fear mode, then that's where you get to diffuse that. But there are things, I believe there's miraculous things in the very near future. I believe there's been miraculous things happen already. But there's that ego outside part of us that has been programmed like crazy to not trust and not believe and not, we have to release that type of logic from our ego, our outside self. And what we have to do is we have to turn inward. We have to turn in to the inside part of us that is all-knowing and believes in miracles. I mean, think about little kids, to about the age of 5 or 6. They are so pure, and they are so, you could tell them anything, and they would be, I remember reading books all through grade school. I used to love fairy tales, and I used to love books on, fantasy books, and mostly fairy tales, big, thick volumes of fairy tales I would read. And they felt real to me, and they felt so magical and wonderful. And I think that if we can get out of our own ego outside way and tune into that inner piece of us, the world is going to look very different. And I think those who see it will be able to walk in that world. Everything that is happening with perfection to those who see, is what I wrote. The news will be fearful, the news will be fearful. Okay, here's what I wrote. What I see is, and if you're 24 minutes in, okay, you're here, you're my people, right? I see this already happening. There's a ton of fear mongering about the earth is changing and humans aren't going to survive because we've destroyed it. And in other words, there's climate change. And I believe it's going to be another method for people that want to control the base of humanity. It's going to give them it's giving them a means to do that. But I think there's a huge majority that has woken up to the fact that, first of all, the climate changes constantly. We've had ice ages. We've had extinction of the dinosaurs. We've had the earth changes. And do we play a small part in it? Yes. Do we need to take care of her and not pollute our oceans and pollute our soil and pollute our air? Yes, we do. We absolutely need to respect and take care of Mother Earth. But we don't need to be fearful of what I believe is going to keep coming at us stronger and more intense from the news. As we embrace the events that are happening, we will get instant upgrades. So the goal is to not be in fear as events unfold. From this day forward, promise yourself, I am not going to live in fear of whatever unfolds. Whatever unfolds, I'm going to live in a place of pure love. That's really what it is. Many of us will step away from technology, and I think that it's already starting to happen. I find myself, and I know I preach this all the time, to turn off your technology, leave your phone at home. You know, a couple weeks ago, I remember suggesting that if you can't imagine running an errand without your phone, you know, it would give you anxiety. Well, that means that you need to do that. You need to disconnect. So here's one of the things that that this Vinnie Tolman talked about. He actually talked about things while he was having his near-death experience 20 years ago, things that he saw in the future. And there's this interview that I saw, and I actually watched about 3 or 4 interviews of his, but this particular one was found in a 4-part series, and it's only about, I think it's about 25 or 30 minutes, but I'll put the link to this below. But what he basically talks about is that many people who understand the potential, the power, our connection to source, and we understand that these shifts that are happening in humanity, in the world, all of this stuff, there's going to be a disconnection because we're not going to need our technology as much. I mean, you think about this, tuning into your gut, into your intuition, what makes you you. If you tune into that, you're not going to need your phone to tell you things. You know, I don't really do this anymore unless I'm going to go on a trip when I'm checking the weather. But I don't need to look at my weather app to see if it's going to rain today or it's going to rain this week, or if it rains tomorrow. Great, that's great. And that's just a very mild example of we don't need to be constantly checking. So many of us will step away from our technology, and we just won't need it as much because we're going to be tuned in. I don't think we need to get rid of technology completely. This is where we use technology to enhance our experience and what we're here for. Many will go deeper into fear and the need for technology. In fact, if you think about it, I've even seen a couple of little videos this last month where they're showing people who are agreeing to be chipped. There was a little clip of a girl, I think she was in Southern California, and she put a chip in her hand, and it has all of her information on this little chip, and she was able to pay for her groceries by waving her hand over this scanner. And my first thought was, oh my gosh, I would never do that. I would never do that. But I think and I already see this, but from what Vinnie described from what he saw in the future was a split. There's a split of people who are going to be disconnecting more from Mother Nature or from their technology. They're going to be tuning more in with Mother Nature, their intuition, their community, their families, their ability to take care of themselves, their ability to affect other people, all of this. And then There's going to be people who are going to literally do everything their phone tells them to do. If you need to be afraid, you need to not drive today, you need to, let us implant a chip in your brain or a chip in your hand, and we get to, like there's already a bit of a split. It feels like to me, and but the cool thing is it doesn't feel fearful. It just feels like this is what's supposed to happen right now. Humanity is shifting. So some will go as far as to put technology into their body, and some of us, and I put myself in this category, will never agree to that. As we move through this time, the place where we will get the most direction is from inside ourselves. To me that is maybe the main message is our answers are we have all the answers. We have them inside of us. And I actually had a couple of experiences this week I'll share with you really quick. So one of my cousins, and I've talked about her before, her name is Val. She's my dad's brother. It's his daughter, so we're first cousins. And she's a foot zoner, and she came this week and gave me a foot zone, and we see the world exactly the same, and we have a lot of similarities with close family members who see the world differently. But as I was getting this foot zone from her today, it's a lovely, lovely treatment. We were talking about how the last foot zone I had from her was last year. We discovered it was a year ago, June. So I was way overdue, and I was like, I gotta see you at least once a month for the next few months. But our perspective and our fear factor has pretty much dissipated since we saw each other last. And I could literally feel her and see her glowing. She's 10 years younger than me. She is this beautiful, enlightened soul. And Val, if you're listening, just know how much I love you and adore you. I think that you and I both realize we are here at this time. We even said last week to each other, we can't believe that we get to be here to witness this and be participants in this amazing time to be alive. And the fact that the fear, and I will tell you, for me, it's gone. And if I do feel a niggle of something come in, I immediately just dissipate it. I brush it away. And I would encourage you to focus on doing that yourself. Okay, so that was a beautiful thing. And then here, and I kind of skipped over this because I wasn't sure how to bring this in. Actually, I'm just going to skip to this. I had a conversation with one of my sisters just yesterday. She was in town for a funeral of a friend. She said, we're talking about raising our kids and how, or any situation where we wish we'd have done better. And what we always end up saying to each other, and we've said this over the years and years and years to each other, we did the best we could. And then, or something like, and then there's another saying, it was the right thing to do. And when she said we did with the best we can, and I said, no, I have had reflections on this lately. That's an excuse. To me, that feels like an excuse when you say, I did the best I could, because most of the time we don't do the best that we know we could. We take the easy way. We take the less painful way. We take the way that doesn't go against the flow. And to say, to fall back on, we did the best we could, or we did the best we can, to me feels so much like an excuse. And I think if you look at everything instead of saying, oh, well, I did the best I could. And if you really reflect inside yourself and ask yourself that question, did I really do the best I could? And then it was the right thing to do with the information we had then. And again, when we were talking about this certain situation, and actually what we were talking about is we were talking about raising our kids. And all of our kids, this is my oldest sister, she has 4 kids. I have 2 kids, are all grown up. They're all middle-aged people at this point. Her youngest is almost 40, and yeah, they're all grown up. And we talk about things. We talk about things that happen, and I'm sure everybody does this. Every parent does this, especially as you become an older parent and your kids are the age as mine are. You say to yourself, I did the best I could, okay? And here's the interesting thing. Many of the things that I did, and even some of the things that I still do now, I catch myself taking the easy route, saying, I did the best I could. And I know deep inside myself, I didn't do the best I could. And the reason I wanted to bring this up and maybe wrap this up with is because if you think about what is happening in the world right now, we all need to bring our A game. We all need to not just fall back on, I'm doing the best I can, because that feels like a massive excuse. And if, I'm not saying I'm saying this purely for my own self. And when I say it was the right thing for me to do at the right moment, I want to make sure that in any decision I make going forward, that I am truly doing the right thing, because we know what the right thing to do is. And you can put this up over a plethora of everything. You know what the right thing to do is with people you allow in your life, with technology you allow into your life, with every little thing that you do. It might feel a little dishonest, but it's like, well, I did the best I could. And to me, whatever it is, and I know I'm being a little bit vague with all this because everybody has their own thing. Everybody is different. And everybody has the choices that they get to make. And when I had this conversation with my sister and we were talking about our kids, and we were not just talking about raising them, but we were talking about decisions we've made and things we've done with them as adults, even just recently in the last few months. So as way adults, it's like the things that we've helped with, enabled, advice we've given or not given, it's because it's the easier way out. It's the way that there's less conflict. And I'm not saying to have conflict. I'm saying sometimes you just have to do the right thing. You have to say the right thing. And then you can truly say, I did the very best I could. In fact, it kind of reminds me of the 4 agreements, which one of them is always do your best. So I don't know if some of that lands with you wrong. That is not my intention at all. So what I would like to know is, does any of this resonate with you? What about the fact, if you see, like I do, that humanity and the paths that we're going and the world that we're going to live in is splitting, if you see that, I'd love to know what you think of that. Does that seem kind of crazy? In fact, what I would suggest you do is watch the video that I'm going to post a link to of Vinnie Tolman, and it's a 4-part interview, this particular one, and it's just one of the parts. And I'll even put the minute that he talks about if you don't want to watch the whole thing. But I'd love to know what you think about this, because I think that the times we're in are so cool, right? And we need to look at it that way, because it's a magical time to be alive. So thank you guys so much for watching. It always helps and gets the word spread out more if you subscribe, if you like, and if you share, and if you comment. When you comment, it actually makes it get out and show up in more people's feeds. So if that's anything that resonates with you, I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on this. I do go in and I'm the one who moderates all the comments on the YouTube channel. And if you're watching this on Rumble, same. I go in there and I check out what's written, and there you go. So I hope you have a beautiful Sunday, a beautiful week ahead. Keep those vibes high, guys. We're in exciting times, and I will talk to you next week.